Motivation and reinforcement. As previously mentioned, motivation to learn and demonstrate skills is essential. Not every child will be inherently motivated to be social or learn social skills. Before we take a closer look at motivation and reinforcement, I'd like to bring your attention to prompt dependency. While most children will need a certain amount of prompting when learning a new skill, prompt dependency occurs when prompts are not faded back and the child does not learn to engage in the behaviour independently. For example, when teaching a child to greet another individual, we often provide a full verbal prompt, in that we say hello to John. If we don't fade this full verbal prompt quickly, the child will always depend on this prompt in order to exhibit the behaviour. The end goal of any social skills training is that it will be self-managed by the individual and exhibited without the addition of a prompt. For this reason, it is vitally important that prompts are removed as early as possible and that independence is sought. Prompts should be faded at a level that is manageable for the individual child, but keeping independence in mind at all times. Self-management is the ability to regulate one's own behaviour. Self-management is a crucial step to the development of independence and also awareness. Providing a self-management checklist for an older child can be an excellent way to promote independence of skills and remove prompts effectively. While the checklist itself acts as a prompt, it does not do so in the moment, but rather provides a prompt before the behaviour is expected and allows the child to independently display the skill. When implementing a self-management checklist, ensure all skills have been practiced in a controlled setting using behavioural rehearsal, keeping in mind the 4 points mentioned previously: people, places, times, and context. Once you're assured that all skills have been mastered, applying 2 skills to 3 skills at a time to the self-management checklist is advisable. The self-management checklist can be administered in the morning to remind the child of the behaviours that are expected throughout the day. The time intervals between checks is completely up to the individual teacher or parent and must suit the student involved. Some children will need check-ins every 10 minutes. Others will require once every hour, or once at lunchtime, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. It is completely dependent on the individual. Reinforcement should be provided after the checklist to ensure that the student is properly reinforced for demonstrating the behaviour and that they are encouraged to demonstrate the behaviour going forward independently. Now let's take a closer look at motivation. Motivation is defined as the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-orientated behaviours. Motivation is what causes us to act, whether it's getting a glass of water to reduce thirst or reading a book to gain knowledge. It involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate behaviour. In everyday usage, the term motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. So why do we need motivators when teaching social skills? Social skills do not come naturally to children with autism. They can find them difficult and hard to comprehend, so providing motivation can ease this process. For some children, the motivation is only needed to spur them on when they find it difficult. For others, they will need motivation to interact, as they are not naturally motivated to engage in reciprocal conversation, which is not of their choosing. They do not gain reinforcement from interacting with others unless it's on their terms. Choosing the right motivator will ensure that you experience success in your training. When choosing motivators for a child, keep the following points in mind. The child should engage with the item freely. In other words, you don't have to coax or cajole them into engaging with the item. The child should look for the item when it's out of sight. Effective motivators will always be the item that the child thinks of in the absence of the item itself. For example, I don't have to see a tub of ice cream in order to know I want some ice cream. The child should resist when the item is taken away. While this may seem cruel, it does show that the item holds power and that the student is extremely motivated to gain access to the item. Access to the item should be more rewarding than escaping the demand. Now this sounds complicated, but basically it means that access to the item that you are offering is more exciting and rewarding then the skill you are asking them to complete is perhaps boring or uninteresting to them. If you keep these 4 points in mind when choosing your motivators, you will ensure that your learner is motivated and ready to engage in the skills that you are asking them to complete. Keep in mind that the needs of your learner should always be at the core of your planning, and for this reason, the child should play an active part in choosing motivators. The child should have a variety of motivators to choose from. This is to ensure that satiation doesn't occur and the student becomes tired of the motivators and therefore tired of the skills you're asking them to complete. The child's motivators should be changed or swapped as frequently as possible to ensure that they are motivated at all times. If you are unsure what motivates your child, simple motivation sampling can be carried out quite easily. If your learner is verbal, simply asking them to name their 5 top items or activities can be an intro into choosing motivators. If your learner is not verbal, providing a range of toys and activities in their immediate vicinity and taking note of which items or activities they're drawn towards can provide you with the information you need in order to choose your reinforcers. The role which motivators and reinforcers play in social skills training should not be underestimated. They are a vital component of social skills training, and without these, you run the risk of being unsuccessful in your training. Choose your motivators wisely and keep the individual at the core of your planning at all times. Keeping your student motivated will keep your student learning and progressing. Next, let's take a look at incidental reinforcement. Incidental reinforcement involves reinforcing the child either through praise or access to a tangible item when they are observed to be exhibiting appropriate behaviour. Incidental reinforcement is random and unpredictable. When the child does not know exactly when they're going to be reinforced, they're more likely to engage in appropriate behaviour all of the time as opposed to just before they know that the behaviour is going to be checked. Incidental reinforcement can be run alongside other reinforcement contingencies in the form of praise, bonus points, or access to a break or tangible item. If you spot a child exhibiting a behaviour that may have been previously taught but not generalised, be sure to immediately reinforce the behaviour and the child's efforts. This will ensure that the skill is demonstrated again. Differential reinforcement involves making it very clear to the child what appropriate behaviours will be reinforced and which inappropriate behaviours will not be reinforced. For example, praise and attention when on task, ignore when off task. Consistency is key to differential reinforcement. If the child does not exhibit the behaviour to be reinforced and is still reinforced, their motivation to do the desired behaviour will be reduced. By using differential reinforcement, we are showing the child exactly what behaviours are expected and what behaviours are not particularly wanted. Now it's time to get thinking. What motivates your child or student? Make a list of items or activities that could be used as their motivators. Finally, let's take a look back at all the steps we have used in our social skills journey. The first and most vital step in the whole planning process is to assess the child's needs. By assessing where they are now, we can understand where we need to go, and this provides a solid base for our social skills training plan. As the old phrase goes, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Devising a plan for your social skills training can take time, but will be worth the effort and will pay dividend in the end. The next step in the process is to actually teach the social skills. Keep your student at the centre of your planning at all times and keep in mind their particular learning styles and needs. The next step is to practice. When practicing, keep in mind the 4 points which we previously set out: times, people, places, and context. These 4 points will help to ensure that you experience success in your social skills training and that your learner generalises skills across all settings, people, and times. Self-management is an essential part of the social skills training journey. Beware of prompt dependency, as this can inhibit learners' progress. Finally, provide reinforcement and motivators that are individual to your learner. Keeping your learner motivated will ensure skill progression and success in your social skills journey.